The Galactic Xenobiology Institute's archives contained 47 to 93 distinct classifications for predatory species across known space. Each term carried weight, history, and most importantly, a survival protocol. The razor-clawed Vorthak were classified as ambush hunters. The crystalline Zephyrians earned the designation energy devourers. Even the nightmare fuel that was the Chromath swarm had been neatly categorized as collective consumers. Dr. Zixthera prided herself on this comprehensive taxonomy. As the Institute's leading xenobiologist, she had personally coined 17 of those classifications. Her 8-legged form clicked across the laboratory floor with practiced precision, manipulating holographic displays that showed the latest addition to their database. Species designation, human, she dictated to her recording device. Origin world, Earth Sol system. Initial classification pending further observation. The humans had been discovered 3 cycles ago by a routine survey mission. First contact had gone remarkably well, surprisingly so given the species' obvious predatory markers. Binocular vision, forward-facing eyes, omnivorous dentition with pronounced canines, all classic signs. Yet they had approached with what they called diplomacy, rather than immediate aggression. Zixthera pulled up the behavioral footage again. The human ambassador, Ambassador Chen if she recalled correctly, sat calmly across from the first contact team. No territorial displays, no threat gestures, just talking. It was unprecedented for a species so clearly designed for hunting. Perhaps they're pack coordinators, she mused, tentacles dancing across her interface. That classification usually applied to species that hunted in organized groups with complex social hierarchies. It would explain their apparent intelligence and communication skills, but then the reports from the outer colony started coming. The first incident occurred when a Chromath scout ship encountered a lone human vessel near the Arcturus belt. Standard protocol dictated that anything smaller than a dreadnought should flee from Chromath on sight. The insectoid creatures were living weapons, bred for conquest, with acid that could melt through hull plating and mandibles that could snap steel. The human ship hadn't fled. Security footage from a nearby monitoring station showed what happened next. The human captain, a female named Martinez, had actually hailed the Chromath vessel. She had calmly informed them they were in violation of the Outer Colony Protection Accord and had 30 seconds to change course. The Chromath, naturally, had responded by opening fire. What followed defied every classification in Zixthera's database. The human ship, barely a quarter the size of the Chromath vessel, had proceeded to systematically dismantle its opponent. Not through superior firepower or advanced shielding, but through something far more terrifying. Absolute calculated precision. Every shot found its target. Every maneuver anticipated the enemy's response. When the Chromath tried their infamous boarding technique, launching themselves through space to tear through enemy hulls, Martinez had vented atmosphere at precisely the right moment to send them spinning helplessly into the void. The encounter lasted 4 minutes. The Chromath ship was left disabled but intact, its crew alive but thoroughly beaten. Martinez had then transmitted medical supplies and repair instructions before departing. Mercy killers? Zixthera wondered aloud, but that didn't fit either. Mercy killers eliminated threats efficiently, but didn't provide aid afterward. The second incident involved the Shadowkin, a species so feared that most civilizations paid tribute rather than risk encountering them. These phantom-like beings could phase through solid matter and drain life force through direct contact. They had terrorized the galaxy for millennia. A human research station in the Kepler void reported Shadowkin activity. Instead of evacuating like any rational species would, Dr. Sarah Kim and her team of xenobiologists had done something unprecedented. They had studied them. Kim had somehow determined that the Shadowkin's phasing ability was disrupted by specific electromagnetic frequencies. Rather than weaponizing this information, she had developed a communication protocol. The first peaceful contact with Shadowkin in recorded history had been achieved by a species that had supposedly never encountered them before. The recordings of Kim calmly explaining human research methodologies to bewildered Shadowkin entities had broken 3 different linguists' understanding of how predator-prey relationships worked. By the time the third report arrived, Zixthara's carefully organized worldview was crumbling. A human trade vessel had wandered into Devourer space, a region so dangerous that it didn't even have official star charts. The Devourers were a hive-minded species that consumed entire ecosystems, converting all organic matter into more of themselves. The human ship, captained by someone called Liu, had not been consumed. Instead, Liu had somehow negotiated a trade agreement. He had convinced a species whose only known behavior was eat everything to start a selective harvesting program in exchange for human-designed cultivation techniques that would increase their long-term biomass yield. The Devourers had agreed to leave inhabited worlds alone in exchange for carefully managed agricultural worlds that would provide sustainable resources. A species that had devoured 47 civilizations over the past 1,000 years was now at farming. Zixthara stared at her screens, her best classification algorithms returning error messages. Every traditional predator category failed when applied to humans. They didn't fit the standard models of how dangerous species behaved. Apex hunters were solitary and territorial. Humans were highly social and collaborative. Pack coordinators showed aggression displays and dominance behaviors. Humans seemed to prefer negotiation. Swarm consumers acted on instinct and overwhelming numbers. Humans demonstrated individual initiative and creative problem-solving. Energy parasites sought to drain and weaken their prey. Humans actually seemed to strengthen the species they encountered. She opened a new classification file and stared at the empty fields. What do you call a predator that doesn't act like a predator? What term encompasses a species that can outfight the galaxy's most feared warriors, outsmart its most cunning hunters, and then offer friendship to the survivors? Her tentacles hovered over the interface as she considered the behavioral patterns. Humans seemed to possess every predatory trait in the database, but expressed them in ways that defied all known models. They were pack hunters who adopted other species into their packs. They were apex predators who protected their prey. They were territorial creatures who shared their territory. Finally, Zixthara began typing. Classification: humans, paradox predators. A species that embodies all known predatory traits while simultaneously subverting the fundamental nature of predation itself. Threat assessment unknown. Survival protocol unclear. Recommendation: further study required. She paused, then added a personal note. Suggestion: when encountering humans, try offering them coffee first. Preliminary observations suggest this significantly improves interaction outcomes. Outside her laboratory window, the first human cultural exchange ship was docking with the Institute's main station. Ambassador Chen was aboard, along with something called a diplomatic coffee service. Zixthara saved her file and prepared to meet the most dangerous species in the galaxy, one that had somehow made the galaxy safer by existing in it.